In the deep forests of the American Northwest, where trees stretch for miles and sunlight struggles to reach the ground, a 3-year-old boy disappeared. No map, no food, no protection. These woods are home to black bears, mountain lions, and freezing nighttime temperatures. Search teams feared the worst, because in this wilderness, even trained adults can become lost. Yet, after 2 days alone in the forest, the boy was found alive. Cold, exhausted, but alive. How does a child survive 48 hours in a place designed to swallow people whole? What happened during those silent hours in the forest? And why did the story of this small boy capture the attention of an entire nation? This is the story of the mysterious survival of Ryker Webb. The town of Troy, Montana, sits near the northern border of the United States, not far from Canada. It is a small rural community surrounded by vast wilderness. The nearby Kootenai National Forest stretches across millions of acres of rugged land, dense trees, steep hills, and hidden valleys. For locals, the forest is both a way of life and a constant reminder of nature's power. Wildlife moves freely here. Black bears roam the woods. Wolves travel through the mountains. Mountain lions stalk quietly through the trees. Cell service is unreliable. Roads disappear quickly into dirt trails, and once someone leaves the safety of town, the forest becomes a maze. In places like this, getting lost is easier than people think. On the evening of June 3, 2022, 3-year-old Ryker Webb was playing outside his family's home. The house sat in a rural area south of Troy, surrounded by open land and forest. Ryker was playing with the family dog. For a few minutes, everything seemed normal. Then, sometime around 6:30 p.m., his father stepped inside the house. When he returned, Ryker was gone. At first, the family believed he might be hiding nearby. Children often wander short distances while playing. They called his name, they searched around the house, the yard, and nearby structures, but the boy did not answer. Within a short time, concern turned into alarm, and the family contacted local authorities. The Lincoln County Sheriff's Office quickly launched a search operation. What began as a small response soon expanded into a large-scale emergency effort. Rescue teams arrived from across the region. Volunteers joined the search. Tracking dogs were brought in to follow the boy's scent. Drones flew overhead, scanning the forest. Helicopters from the Montana National Guard circled the area. Searchers moved through thick brush and steep terrain, but conditions were deteriorating. Rainstorms rolled into the region, temperatures dropped during the night, visibility from the air became difficult, and with each passing hour, the risk grew. A 3-year-old child alone in the wilderness faced overwhelming dangers: hypothermia, dehydration, wild animals. Even adults struggle to survive under those circumstances, yet the search continued. The first night passed with no sign of the boy. Then came the morning of June 4th. Search teams expanded the search radius. Every trail, every road, every abandoned structure within miles was checked. Still, there was no trace of Ryker. The forest remained silent. Another night approached. By now, the child had been missing for more than 24 hours. Search leaders understood the statistics. For a toddler in the wilderness, survival chances drop rapidly after the first day. Rain continued to fall, temperatures dropped again, and somewhere in the darkness, a 3-year-old boy was alone. Many feared the worst. On the morning of June 5th, nearly 48 hours after Ryker disappeared, something unexpected happened. A local family drove to their remote cabin property several miles from town. Authorities had asked residents to check their buildings, sheds, and vehicles. When they arrived at their property near Bull Lake, they began inspecting the area. Then they heard a faint sound, a child's voice. They followed the noise to a small storage shed. Inside, they discovered something astonishing. Ryker Webb was sitting in a bag used for lawn equipment. He was dirty, cold, and extremely tired, but he was alive. The location where he was found was more than 2 miles from his home. For a child so young, that distance was extraordinary. The family immediately contacted authorities. Within minutes, rescuers arrived. When deputies reached the shed, they carefully approached the frightened child. Ryker was visibly shaken, but he was conscious and responsive. Paramedics examined him at the scene. Despite spending 2 days in cold, rainy wilderness conditions, his injuries were relatively minor. He suffered from dehydration, mild hypothermia, scratches, and bruises, but there were no severe injuries, no animal attacks, no broken bones. Rescuers described the moment as remarkable. The boy was transported to a nearby hospital for observation. Later that day, he was reunited with his family. For search teams who had spent 2 exhausting days in the forest, the outcome felt almost unbelievable. Investigators later tried to understand how Ryker survived. At just 3 years old, his ability to describe the events was limited. However, officials believe he may have followed small paths or animal trails through the woods. Eventually, he likely reached the shed and took shelter inside. That structure may have saved his life. It protected him from rain, wind, and the worst of the cold. Still, questions remain. How did he avoid dangerous wildlife? How did he travel such a long distance? And how did a toddler manage to survive nearly 2 days alone? Some answers may never be known. What remains clear is that the situation could easily have ended differently. History is filled with dark stories of loss, disaster, and survival, and sometimes from the ashes of fear and uncertainty, a story of survival emerges. If you found this story meaningful, consider supporting the channel. Like the video, share it with others, and subscribe to Files from the Ashes for more true stories drawn from the darker chapters of reality.